Hi everyone, I'm Frank from the City of Games, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to play the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw. Now please keep in mind, everything you're going to see in this video is a prototype component, so it's not representative of the final quality you're going to get in your game when it arrives. But the rules are complete, so let's get on with the teach. We are going to the Isle of Cats, and we are going to be rescuing cats from the island before the evil warlord Vesh arrives and destroys it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the time tracker and we're going to place it on the island. We're then going to take Vesh's boat and we're going to place this on the number 7 space that is going to show us that he is going to arrive in 7 days time, or 7 rounds. The game is played over 7 rounds, and on each round we're going to be taking cards from the cat deck and from the lesson deck, and we're going to be drawing those cards onto our boat. Each player is going to take a boat sheet and put it in front of them. They're also going to take a lesson sheet to put next to their boat sheet. So in a 2-player game, we will end up with 2 players, each with their own boat and each with their own lesson sheet. Finally, we're going to take the pens and we're going to put a set of 6 pens in between each set of players. So everyone needs to be able to reach at least 1 pen of each colour. In a 2-player game, we simply just need 1 set of them. First thing we're going to do before we begin is we're going to name our ship. And of course, I'm going to go with the most original name that you can imagine. I'm going to call my ship Frank, because why not? We're then going to start. Vesh's ship is on the 7, so the first day begins. We're going to take cards from the cat and lessons decks and we're going to place them out. We're going to place them in a certain pattern, and we use the same pattern for every single round. So let's start with the cat cards, because we're going to have more of these coming out. We're going to put the first 3 down in 1 column, and we're simply going to place these in a way where we have 3 of them in 1 column. Next, we're going to skip a space, put 1 in the middle and put 1 at the bottom. We're then going to put 1 at the top. We're going to skip a space, put 1 at the bottom, and then we're going to skip a space, put 1 in the middle and skip a space. So you can remember this as there's none in the first column, then we've got the first row, the second row, and then both the top and the bottom for the last column. We're then going to take some lesson cards. Before we do that, I just want to talk about the 2 decks quickly. The cat deck mainly has cats in it. Sometimes you'll get 2 little kittens, sometimes you'll get 1 large cat, but it also comes with Oshaks, which are special cats, and it also comes with treasures, which help you fill parts of your boat. The lessons deck is mainly lesson cards, but this also comes with some other cards as well, such as treasures and Oshaks. So you'll see we put 4 of the lesson cards into the 4 spaces, and we're good to start. Each round you're going to discard the cards that were there, put new ones out, and you're going to do this 7 times. Players are going to choose which column they would like. Multiple players can take the same column. You don't physically have to move them, you just need to look at them, select them, and then start playing them. So for example, let's say that we're going to choose the first column. We have now got these 3 cards we are drawing onto our boat, but we can draw them in any order we wish. So we could do the top, the middle, the bottom, or we could do middle, top, bottom. It's up to us. The only things you have to remember are, if there are 2 things on a card, you have to do everything on that card before you move on to the next card. And if there's a word such as any, to, or, you need to follow those rules and again complete that card before you move on. So for example, if it says or, you get everything above the or everything below. If it says any 2, you can take any 2 of them, but you can also take the same one twice should you wish. So we're taking column 1, we're going to start by drawing this cat onto our boat. When you draw your first thing onto your boat, you can draw it anywhere you like. You can rotate it, you can flip it, as long as you maintain the shape and it fits within the outside edge of your boat, you're good to go. So let's say that we're going to draw this cat here. We're going to take the blue pen, we're going to draw the shape by rotating it and putting it here. It's really important you draw a clear outline, so at the end of the game, you know how many cats you've got on your boat. You can decorate it however you wish. If you're an artist, you can draw cats instead of boxes, but we're going to keep it simple today. Once you've finished drawing your first thing, every other thing from then on must be touching at least one thing you've previously drawn. So let's say we're now going to draw this Oshax. Oshax are special cats. They're basically a normal cat that can be any colour. So in this instance, we're going to draw the Oshax as another blue cat. We're going to draw it onto our boat, so we're simply going to draw the line, we're going to put it out nice and simple, and we're just going to draw it like we drew the blue cat. But of course it wasn't Oshax. Now it's drawn, we don't need to worry about whether it was an Oshax or not, that's not important, it simply counts as a blue cat for the rest of the game. We're now going to move on to the kittens, and again there's a red and a blue. We can draw them in any order we wish. You will notice on our boat there are different coloured treasure maps. There's a red, green, purple, blue and orange. If you draw a cat of the matching colour over the treasure map, then you get to take a common treasure. So let's do that. Let's start by drawing this little kitten here, and we're going to draw it over this treasure map. Because the blue cat matches the blue treasure map, we get a common treasure, and the 4 common treasures are shown on the top of the time tracker. You have a corner piece, which is 3 squares, a 1x1, a 2x1 and a 3x1. When you draw a common treasure onto your boat, it follows all the normal rules. It has to touch at least one previously drawn thing, and this doesn't include diagonals. It means that at least one edge has to be touching, and we draw them using the black pen. So let's say, for example, we're going to draw this one here. Once you've drawn it, you're going to put a C in it to show that it's a common treasure, or you can decorate it in a way that you wish to remind yourself that it is a common treasure. Keep in mind that because we covered the treasure map, we resolved the treasure map by taking the common treasure and drawing it onto our boat before we drew the next kitten. Now that that is complete, we can draw the red kitten, which will complete our turn. We're going to choose to draw this one over here. Now, you may be looking at me going, well, that's a green treasure map, and that's fine. You can draw anything over anything you wish. You can draw over rats, over walls, over treasure maps. We simply just don't get the bonus. So in this instance, we filled this space, but we're not going to get the bonus for it. Now, at this point, all other players would be done. These cards would be removed, the Vesh's boat would move on, and new cards would come out following that same pattern. If we moved on to the hand, we would get to final scoring. But first, I want to talk you through some of the other cards. We've already talked about common treasures, and we've already talked about the keywords any and or. These are all the words you're going to need to know. We haven't talked about lesson cards. These are the blue cards that have text on them. These are ways to score additional points at the end of the game. So if you were to take one, you will notice there is a big number in the top left hand corner. You simply go to your lesson sheet, find that number and tick it off. Let's say that we had chosen this column, we would tick off 23 and number 2, so we would go to the second one on the list, we would go to the 23rd one on the list, and we would be done. At the end of the game, we will score points if we've achieved this, and we'll come on to this when we do final scoring. Finally, I want to just talk about rare treasures, which is another type of treasure that you can find. You can tell the difference because rare treasures are bigger and they're also golden. Common treasures are always 1, 2 or 3 squares, and they're always the copper colour. Rare treasures work just like common treasures. You draw them onto your boat with the black pen. Let's say we were to draw this one here. However, rather than writing a C, you put an R, or you can decorate it in a different way. So that's everything you need to know about how the cards work, but you'll also notice on your boat down here, you have 5 different special actions. Now, we're playing over 7 days, and on each day you can use 1 special action, and you can use 3 special actions throughout the game. So you're not going to get to use 2 of them, and you can't use more than 1 on the same turn. You may want to use them at the start of the game, you may want to use them at the end, it's up to you. Let's just quickly talk through how each of these works. The first one says, take 1 additional item from any other column. So for example, we chose this column, but that would then allow us to take any one of the other 9 cards and resolve it. Equally, we could resolve that card before we resolve the cards from the column we chose if we use the special before we had drawn those onto our boat. Next one says, take 1 item from each row instead of taking a column. So this is a build your own column, so to speak. You could take any of these 4 cards, any of these 4 cards, any of these 4 cards, and again, you can do that in any order you wish. Next is draw your next cat twice. So if you were to take a cat, a kitten, an Oshax, once you've drawn it onto your boat, you can draw an identical one onto your boat. Now let's just go over some clarifications. If you've got a card with 2 kittens, you're simply drawing one of those kittens twice, and if you've got an Oshax, you're drawing the exact same Oshax again of the same colour. Of course, you can rotate them differently and put them in different places of your boat. You can draw your next treasure twice. Again, just like the rare treasures, common treasures, you can draw any of these onto your boat twice. You draw one, you then draw the next one identical onto your boat. If you've taken something like any 2, you have to draw the one that you've selected. You couldn't choose to draw a different one. Finally, take a row instead of a column. Now this is really powerful because it allows you to take 4 cards instead of 3 cards. So this may be great and it gives you a new set of options. That's everything you need to know. Let's move on to scoring and we'll wrap this up. At the end of the game, you're going to score points for different things. You'll see down here there is a scoring grid. You will score for families, blue, green, orange, purple and red cat families. A cat family is 3 or more cats of the same colour which are touching. So we have got 1, 2, 3 blue cats that are touching here, which means that they are a family. Not every cat has to touch every other cat. It's just as long as they're all connected in some form, then that's fine. Other things can be touching them, they just don't count. So we've got a family of 3. Let's say that we had another blue kitten over here. This would not be part of this family because it is not touching. If later on we managed to find another cat that filled up this space, we would now have a family of 5, and that's absolutely fine. You can have multiple families of the same colour, you can have multiple families of different colours, and any which is just 1 or 2 cats is not a family because you need to have at least 3. You will see in the bottom right corner there is a scoring grid. 3 equals 8, 4 equals 11, all the way up to 10 equals 40. So for each family, count up your points. We've got 5 blues, which means we're going to score 15 points, and we would add this to our sheet. If you've got more than 10 cats of the same colour, you gain 5 points for each additional cat. Next up, we get 3 points for each rare treasure. We've got 1 rare treasure, so we're going to score 3 points. And then we're going to come to our lesson cards. At this point, you would go through all of the lessons you've ticked off and see how you've done. We ticked off number 2, 1 point per common treasure on your boat. We've drawn 1 common treasure, so we're going to get 1 point. Perhaps for us, a good strategy would be getting more common treasures and not covering them with the wrong colour cats. Equally, we've got number 23, 12 points if there are no empty spaces at the edge of your boat. So if we had managed to fill the edge of our boat entirely, we would have got 12 extra points. Of course, we only played 1 round, so we weren't going to achieve that. Add up all of the points from your lessons, write it into the box, and now let's look at the penalties. You are going to lose 1 point for every single rat that is still visible on your boat. We've got quite a few rats visible, so we would add them up and write them into that box. And finally, we're going to lose 5 points for each room we haven't filled. So let's have a quick look at what a room is. You will see that on our boat there are 7 clearly identifiable areas. They have alternating colours just to make them clearer. They have icons in different corners to help you understand which rooms are connected. They've also got walls around them. But for the purposes of this, I'm just going to highlight them, and in the rulebook you'll also see them highlighted too. So we've got 1 room over here which fills this space. We've got 1 room down here, which fills this space. We've got 1 room up here, filling this space. We've got this central room here. You will notice in total there are 7 rooms, and every single square is part of a room. There are no exceptions. So even this big, large middle area here is all part of 1 big, large room. This is what we refer to as the no icon room. So if it doesn't have an icon on it, then it is part of the no icon room. You would count up how many of these are not filled, and a filled room classifies one as every square is covered. Whether it's covered by treasure or cats, it does not matter, but everything needs to be covered. Add up your scores, write it into the box, see who's got the most points, and they're going to be the winner. I hope this has helped you learn how to play the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below, and until next time, keep on adventuring.